Hello, my name is Brad Kramer, owner of Provenio Consulting. We do safety and environmental consulting, and I want to take a few minutes to talk about what kind of benefits a manufacturing or industrial company can get from a strong safety program or by working with Provenio Consulting. What kind of benefits could you bring to your business? First of all, obviously, we're safety and environmental consulting. So the first goal is going to be decreasing injuries. How can we decrease those injuries for employees so they're not suffering, quality of life injuries, things that hurt them down the road, as well as costly injuries for your business right now. So obviously, that's going to be the first thing that we focus on is decreasing injuries. Some of the things that come from that, though, are very beneficial to a business and things that many businesses are trying to achieve, but don't quite know how to go about it. For example, right now, many businesses are struggling to recruit and retain employees. There's a lot of different reasons for it right now in our culture and what's going on in society. But a big part of that many businesses are kind of blind to, and even if they were aware of it, don't really know how to fix, is that employee recruitment and retention. So first of all, starting out with employee recruitment, you have a reputation out in the community. This supersedes your marketing and stuff like that. There's conversations among employees with their friends, families, stuff like that, where you have a reputation. It's not just your brand that your marketing department or whoever does your marketing for your company focuses on, but these are the more intimate conversations that people in the community have about your business. Are you driving that conversation? What kind of things are employees bringing out to the community and talking about? If you're having a lot of injuries, employees are obviously telling their friends about them. If somebody's getting injured, that employee is going to go tell their friends that I got injured, doing my job, and that spreads that reputation around the community. So when you're injuring people, community members know. And think about, if you're looking for a job, what kind of job are you going to look for? What kind of employer? You're probably going to avoid those places that you've heard cause a lot of injuries. So right off the bat, a lot of employers are missing out on quality employees because they have that reputation in the community. So we can focus on, what is your reputation out in the community? First of all, we have to fix those problems that are causing safety incidents in the first place. To fix that reputation, we can't just slap a Band-Aid on and tell the community we're a safe place to work when people are still getting injured. On the other hand, though, who's driving those conversations? You might have had that one employee out in the community that they got fired for something unrelated to safety, performance issues and stuff like that. And they're probably going around and telling their friends that they were, fired for this or for that, something different, and saying, this place, you don't want to work here. They get people injured and stuff like that. So making sure, just like any other marketing activity, you're driving that conversation out in the community, not a disgruntled former or current employee. But again, before you can drive that conversation, you have to have real numbers or real benefits. You can't just say you're something you're not. All right, so what are your employees going out in the community saying? That we're going to look at, what's your employee morale? What are your employees experiencing? When you think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, as individuals, we can't focus on bigger picture things if we're not getting our immediate needs met. So thinking about employees who are constantly worried in the workplace, they're worried that I'm going to get injured. My employer doesn't care about me. Things like that. They do jobs that, maybe if those jobs are very mundane and very physical in nature, they don't usually enjoy those types of jobs. If they're, monotonous, mundane, they don't feel like they're contributing much. So we can look at those jobs that they're doing, those tasks, and improve them. So we're going to improve morale, and employees are going to drive that conversation out in the community for us. When we look at other costs related to injuries, workers' compensation is a huge cost that businesses absorb. And we can manage that cost by decreasing those injuries. A lot of times this one takes years before we realize those actual savings, because workers' comp looks at your injuries. And I have a whole video that talks about workers' comp if you want to visit some more of my videos here and look at how workers' comp is calculated, but it takes about 3 years. They look at your average injuries for the past, they look at your injuries for the past 3 years, and that drives your workers' compensation costs. So we're not going to get an immediate benefit from work comp, but it's going to be that 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road that you're going to have some substantial savings to those premiums if we bring your injuries down. Improving employee effectiveness and engagement from training. So when your employees go through a training program, say you do your annual right to know or chemical safety training, right? If you're just putting them in a room and they're watching a video, they've watched the same training year after year, they're not getting anything out of it. They're not understanding how to recognize hazards and how to get the information that they need, such as how to actually read an SDS. We've all sat through those safety training where employees are given an SDS and we read through it and they can like physically read it, but they don't know what those numbers mean. So when we focus in on training to say, okay, we're going to focus on really recognizing the hazards, it's going to be more hands-on, it's going to be engaging. We're doing different tactics that engage those employees. Now they're going to understand those hazards much better, and they're going to understand what that safety data sheet and what that information means, how to wear that PPE correctly, rather than just slapping something on because the boss says they have to. Right, so they're going to get a lot more out of that training and be much more likely to learn something in that training that's going to benefit your business overall, not just meeting the requirements for that safety training. Also, meeting the OSHA and EPA requirements. This isn't just a regulatory requirement, and I'd say a lot of safety consultants put too much focus on the regulatory side. Remember, OSHA is just giving you a baseline. This is a minimum that you should be doing as an employer to avoid hurting people. But how can we build on that? How can we build on not just regulatory compliance, but how can that feed your business in a positive manner? But those OSHA fines and EPA fines that you get, different businesses, a lot of big businesses, when they're looking at who do we want to do business with, who's going to be our supplier, who's going to be a service provider, they look at your safety record, and that's critical to getting some of these big name clients that you might get for your business. Anybody can go to the OSHA website and look at every business that has ever had a fine from OSHA, citation, inspection, anything like that. So if your name, your business keeps showing up on that list year after year of getting citations, businesses are going to run away from you. They're not going to want to hire you to do business with them because they don't want your brand sullying their brand because you got people injured. So by focusing on your reducing injuries, you may have a whole market share that you can go after that you couldn't go after before. And obviously that's going to have some tremendous benefits for your business. Improving operational efficiency. This comes from a few different things. Looking at when you have an employee that's injured, you have to shuffle workers around. So if you have somebody that they have job restrictions or they have lost time, you have to, Bob is injured, so we're going to take Bob off this machine. We got to bring Joe from over on this task and have Joe run this machine. Now we got to go back to who is running Joe's machine and find somebody else. And we're going to make people work overtime and all kinds of other things. We're going to bring in temps and stuff like that. All these things that you're doing to work around, having to shuffle employees around. What does that mean for your business? How much are you losing throughput? What kind of cost do you have related with having to pay all that overtime and stuff like that? Right. So we're going to look at those efficiency issues, as well as how can we make that job more efficient to begin with? A lot of injuries, when I drill back to where are people getting injured in a facility, and I go and I look at that task that's resulting in a lot of injuries, a lot of times that task in and of itself is very inefficient. You're relying on manpower, somebody bending over, picking up a bag of flour, 50-pound bag of whatever, all day long, right? They're moving that by hand all day long. Typically, they're probably doing it the slowest way possible, just because it's done manually rather than automated. You probably haven't set that job up to fit the worker. So that worker has to bend down, putting themselves at higher risk. So if we can bring that pallet up, for example, and have it be at waist height where they're grabbing the bag from, and keep them from, say, twisting with their back. You don't want to be picking something up, twist, and set it down. How can we set up that work site or work task so it fits the worker? Obviously, we might automate completely and get rid of that position. Typically, when we talk about eliminating a position, the first thing that happens is employees get nervous, like, oh my God, they're going to fire somebody, right? I don't want to lose my job for efficiency. And that's not the case. As an employer, a lot of times you're trying to recruit more employees. You have that turnover, and you're trying to bring new people in, right? So if we can eliminate a couple positions from operations, a lot of times what that means for you is we're not firing somebody. Now we just have less positions that we have to recruit for. So when you improve your recruitment and retention and possibly eliminate a few positions, now all of a sudden you're sitting in a much better position from looking at your workforce. What do you have for employees, and how much are you spending trying to recruit new employees? According to Glassdoor, the internet website that deals with employees and recruitment efforts and stuff like that, they say the average recruitment to bring in a new employee is $4,000 and about 52 days to fill that position. So if we were to, say, eliminate half of the positions that you were trying to fill, between eliminating the positions and ensuring that you're retaining good employees so you don't have to recruit in the first place, you can save a lot of money, not just on those recruitment costs directly, but what are you losing by not having those employees or positions filled? Right? So if you're losing throughput, if you can't get the parts out the door fast enough to meet your customers' needs, that's another big expense right there that we can help with. So there's a lot of different things we can do, as well as I've got years in industry reducing those expenses. So to give you one example of workarounds for safety that we can reduce those costs from, a lot of times what happens when you have a hazard, somebody cuts their hand and management says, okay, we're going to give them cut resistant gloves. So you just throw a box of gloves or throw a bag of gloves out on the workplace floor, and folks grab the gloves and they do the job. That might reduce the hazard to an extent, but how are you managing that? To give you an example, one company I was working with was spending approximately $60,000 a year in PPE. And just by bringing in vending machines, didn't cost that company a dime. We brought vending machines that were paid for by the vendor. We cut PPE costs in half, just like that. Went from $60,000 to $30,000 a year. Right? We didn't eliminate access to it. We didn't put restrictions on how many gloves or anything an employee could get. It was just simply having a vending machine there that employees had to go through, rather than grabbing 5 pair of gloves out of a box. They had to go to the vending machine and get a pair at a time. So those are some very easy ways that we can cut costs right away for your business and improve your culture, improve your reputation out in the community, both with potential employees, community members. So like if you're going to city council or your economic development agency trying to get loans to build your business and city support permits and stuff like that, the better reputation you have out in the community, the better luck you're going to have with those projects. So we can help you manage those reputations out in the community, lower a lot of costs, improve your efficiency. Those are all the things that should come from a good safety program in your business. All right. Safety should not just be regulations that we're practicing regulatory compliance. Just like any other function in your business, there should be a lot of benefits from your safety program. All right. We shouldn't just be looking at OSHA, but how can we improve our business? So integrating safety into the greater business practices that you have, so you're getting a lot more benefits from it. So at Provenio Consulting, we'd love to come in and help you realize those benefits from a robust safety program. If you have any questions on, how we might be able to help you or anything like that, I'd love to have a conversation with you. My email address is brad@provenioconsulting.com. I'd love to hear from you, and have a great, safe day.